All right, and welcome back. This is Dan DeMan, aka DTM, your professor at Revolution University, and your de facto chief of the Revolutionary Tribe. Again, strength in numbers, people. We need to unite our economic power and intellectual power. All right. So one of the goals of the tribe is to, well, basically, yes. First, I teach you how to organize your life, because you have to have your house in order first. Change yourself first, and others will follow you. Well, not everybody, but you'll be surprised that when you change yourself, other people will change. Sorry if you hear some noise, some kids here and there. Just it's a nice, wonderful day in Chicago, and trying to let the fresh air come in. So I was saying, so I teach you how to put your house in order, right? And then, which is, you got to put your financials in order, which then that means now we can, you'll build up your credit score, right? If you're young, it's going to take about 2 years, if not more, but then there's a business side as well. I'm just saying, I want to help you raise capital, so that way you bring it to the tribe, and trust me, there's too much I can go into that, but I just wanted to give a little intro into that, so that you understand that you will benefit a lot from first of all, I'm sharing my wealth with you, and I'm leading the way by that, and then you're going to see the fruit of that you're like, okay, now I understand why Dan's talking about, self-imposing an income limit. Let's say the things I teach you, right? You raise the capital, you invest in the business because you see which businesses actually work, right? And maybe you have a special, unique thing, and it really takes off, right? And you become very wealthy. I think I might have to close the door here. I forgot what I was saying wrong there. Basically, you become very wealthy, and then you're going to see that basically, yes, sharing the wealth is a lot better than consuming it all yourself. But okay, I digress. Let's start with the second track.
My most powerful messenger is experience, and even this you ignore. Especially this you ignore. Your world would not be in its present condition were you to have simply listened to your experience. The result of your not listening to your experience is that you keep reliving it over and over again. For my purpose will not be thwarted, nor my will be ignored. You will get the message sooner or later. I will not force you to, however. I will never coerce you. For I have given you a free will, the power to do as you choose. And
Now, let me remind you guys, don't let the title fool you. Don't let the other word of free will. Is this some Christian stuff? Trust me, it is not. Oh my God, I think I'm being bugged here. It is not any Christian stuff at all. As you guys will, well, some of you will find out. For those of you who stick around, don't let these little, semantics trigger you like it did me to a certain extent. But again, at least I push forward to it, right? If you say you're an open mind, then listen to all 3 books and then judge it, okay? But yes, just because he's using the word free will does not necessarily mean it's a Christian stuff. That's what I try to tell people, like, how is being a good person? How is religion claim to own that? No one can own that. You don't need like I tell some of these religious people sometimes. I'm like I was telling you in the first video about my Bangladesh coder, and eventually I will actually have videos of him listening, so you can have a Muslim's man's interpretation of this stuff, And I'm sure he's gonna say yes in the Quran, this and that, blah blah blah, right? And the other things, you're like, well, no, I disagree, blah blah blah. But the point is, what was I saying? Jesus Christ, sorry. I forgot. I'm sorry. Let's continue. Sorry.
or take that away from you, ever. And so I will continue sending you the same messages over and over again throughout the millennia and to whatever corner of the universe you occupy. Endlessly will I send you my messages until you have received them and held them close, calling them your own. My messages will come in 100 forms, in 1,000 moments across 1,000,000 years. You cannot miss them if you truly listen. You cannot ignore them once truly heard. Thus will our communication begin in earnest. For in the past, you have only talked to me, praying to me, interceding with me, beseeching me. Yet now can I talk back to you, even as I'm doing here.
How can I know this communication is from God? How do I know this is not my own imagination?
What would be the difference? Do you not see that I could just as easily work through your imagination as anything else?
Exactly. What would be the difference? Okay, so now this diagram makes sense what I was making on the first video. Okay, because this is basically what it boils down to. You see, I could have put this out here, right? I could put this out here as separate things, but the reality is you're not separate, you see? So let's actually work on that right there. We're going to put, so this is, okay, yeah, there we go. Now I know what to do here. Okay, so there we go. So what we're going to do here is a part of, I don't want to use the word God. Okay, a part of love. Okay, and then the other perspective is copy that, copy, paste. Look somewhere, almost look like a what's it called? What do they call that? The Marabot. Okay. Well, again, this is just the sloppiness right now, and again, I don't have too much real estate here because I've got this over here. Let's scoot it over here. Bring this over here. Okay, so as you'll hear in the book eventually, let's blow this up. Right, so basically this is how, oh, come on. Really? Sorry, there we go. So most people think, just so that it goes side, right? Most people think is, here I am, right? This is me, and this is God. As if God's over here and I'm over here, right? So this is the space, right? So just like Leonardo da Vinci did the God, well, God was on the right side and you were on the left, right? So, right, God was reaching out to you, right? We can probably make it go like this, like if it's like with the arrow, yeah, there we go, right? So reaching out to you, and of course, well, he was reaching back, whatever. So let's delete that, okay? So the point is, I'm saying, see, oops, that's what I was trying to do here. Copy, paste. It's been a long day, man. My words are all tired. A part. Apart from love. A part of love, apart from love. Yeah, that's what it is. A part, meaning you're one of many different cogs in the system, versus apart, meaning you're far away, right? You're away. You're not together. You see, everything else, your soul's apart, right? God's over here. Here's your soul. Here's the physical realm, right? Well, this is the Holy Trinity, so the realm was just that was in a whole other. That was from a different perspective, right? I'm also using this diagram to show that everything's within God and how it kind of breaks down, right? So, of course, this is just an imaginary line, all right? Let's put that in there, actually. Let's do that. Copy, paste. Imaginary line. Alright, there we go. Alright, so that's an imaginary line. Obviously, it's infinite, right? But just so that your human mind can grasp it, right? Let's say this is the totality of God, right? And this is the energy. Oh yeah, that's the other thing before I forget. So this is what I try to convey to Christians and just people in general. Like, simplify your cosmology, right? And when it comes to the Christians, I'm like, because I disagree with their whole I'm a sinner, I'm a bad person, whatever. I'm like, wait. If you're saying God, this is the ultimate perfect thing and created everything, right? God is perfect and makes no mistakes at all, right? Then how can anything intrinsically that this phenomenon, call it God, Allah, whatever, created, make what's called anything that it made be inherently flawed, right? So, and first of all, then I'm like, okay, weren't you made in the image of the highest self of God, right? Weren't you made in the image of the God? And I'm telling me, did you pay attention in Genesis when God created man twice? He was talking, the first time was talking about your soul, your higher self, right? Which is really itself just dividing itself into a bunch of different cells, right? So this is actually, we can put a bunch of little circles in there, just like I'll probably edit in future time. I'll edit a video where I'll edit into there where the I think it's mitosis or whatever. Basically, cellular division. You know how one cell becomes two becomes four, and then all of a sudden you have a human being. See, souls, higher self. Okay, so I'm like, how can this thing that made you, which you claim to be perfect, how can you then, if you're an extension of it, right, even beyond the soul part, right, the self here, if your physical body, right, in the physical realm, right, how can you be a sinner? How can you be imperfect? You were made in the image of God. This is just an illusion. And of course, it was a misinterpretation and men middling with things to control humans through fear and guilt. But I digress.
I will bring you the exact right thoughts, words, or feelings at any given moment, suited precisely to the purpose at hand, using one device or several. You will know these words are from me because you, of your own accord, have never spoken so clearly. Had you already spoken so clearly on these questions, you would not be asking them.
To whom does God communicate? Are there special people? Are there special times?
All people are special, and all moments are golden. There's no person and there's no time one more special than another. Many people choose to believe that God communicates in special ways and only with special people. This removes the mass of the people from responsibility for hearing my message, much less receiving it, which is another matter, and allows them to take someone else's word for everything. You don't have to listen to me, for you've already decided that others have heard from me on every subject, and you have them to listen to. By listening to what other people think they heard me say, you don't have to think at all.
And boy, oh boy, that is a big one. That is a big, again, even though it may have been simple words that were uttered, the implications are pretty big, And yeah, most people do not want the headache, the burden, the work that it takes to actually think. Just tell me. My parents, they told me that I can't do this is wrong, this is right, this and that. My religion told me, my culture told me, my friends told me, it's like, well, is it? And eventually you'll hear me talk about the actual, I think the only real not sin, sorry, but the transgressions that one can do it to another, because if it was being done unto you, right, it's a golden rule, right, do unto others what would be done to you. If these 6 things were done unto you, you wouldn't like it. Therefore, do not do it.
This is the biggest reason for most people turning from my messages on a personal level. If you acknowledge that you are receiving my messages directly, then you are responsible for interpreting them. It is far safer and much easier to accept the interpretation of others, even others who have lived 2,000 years ago, than see.
You say, in a sense, people can say, oh, is he taking a jab at Jesus? No, he's just saying, how to put that? Well, actually, no. What he also may be saying, because he talks about it later in the book, and when I say he, I'm using that very loosely. It's it, right? Because it's not gender specific. I'm just saying right now the voice is a he, so I'm saying he, and when it's a she, I'll say she. Okay. But remember, it's not gender specific and this and that. Oh, my gender. Now this whole, oh gosh. What was I saying there? Jeez, hold on. Let me remind me.
To interpret the message you make.
Oh, yeah. So he's talking about that it was like hundreds of years before basically a written account of what Jesus did was written down. And we know how flawed memory is. Yes, it could have been better in the past, or they argue it could have been better in the past. And to a certain degree, there's some strong evidence that shows that was, because it was a force, it was a need, it was a force of need to remember that. So people who memorized the Torah, the Quran, right, the Buddhist, whatever, the Vedics, right, there's people that are fanatics, and they're like, that just they started from a very young age, and they memorize that stuff, but those are the exception to the rule. So that's why I was arguing, actually with not arguing like I'm just saying with my Bangladesh coder, I'm like, how do you know these men that memorize stuff didn't corrupt it? There's just too many situations where the thing could have been corrupted intentionally or unintentionally. I know it was probably unintentionally, but that's just, again, I don't think he knows about the telephone game, but the telephone phenomenon, that's just what happens, each time, right? And of course that's why you have the Saudis and the Saudis and the Sunnis and I forgot the other one. I forgot the name of it, because again I got other things to worry about than joining a more philosophical fight, right? That has ended in most wars, right? As I'm telling them, like, that's why I don't label myself. It doesn't matter, Let's find our common ground, and that common ground right now is that we're all financial slaves, and we should try to help each other get out of it.
Very well be receiving in this moment now. Yet I invite you to a new form of communication with God. A two-way communication. In truth, it is you who have invited me, for I have come to you in this form right now in answer to your call.
Why do some people, take Christ for example, seem to hear more of your communication than others?
Because some people are willing to actually listen. They're willing to hear. They're willing to remain open to the communication, even
as you will see through me, right, putting myself out there. And I forgot there's a book 4 now that I listened to all the way through, but I will add this to the bunch here. But it's like, wait, basically it's talking to me in a sense. I'm sure it's talking to other people, that you have to basically use YouTube, the internet, project yourself, show yourself, be the change you want to be. Right? So live by example, and that's why I'm doing this and I'm creating it. And you're gonna see that yes, from the building my city to becoming a decabillionaire, right? Again, you could say I'm arrogant or whatever, or maybe really I'm brave enough to put my reputation in the line, willing enough to receive ridicule, like, oh, look at you're 45, you're still not a billionaire, or they'll be like, you're a billionaire yet? You're a decabillionaire yet? Blah 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 blah. Right? But also, then when it happens, right? Because sometimes it just seems like, oh my God, it's kind of like, there's even times when I'm in my doubtful mood. I'm like, oh my God, am I ever? And again, just even if I don't make it before the average age of 51, because that's the average age, right? If I've been giving money to the community in other ways, right, where I'm no longer basically making profit from it, one can say, well, yeah, I could have been there. If you factor in me not giving it back to the community, I could have grew faster, right? I could have been greedy, which is what we're facing right now, right? The very, very rich are very greedy, and the poor are very I don't know why this thing's kind of off. Looks like I'm looking at the side. Yeah, and the poor are greedy with their time, right? Time and money, right? Time is money, right? So the rich are greedy with their money. Right now, of course, they should have given back to people, but for what I observe right now, that's why with all the tribesmen, I'm like, look, or all the future employees of the cooperatives, I'm like, look, you have two options. I can pay you the going market rate, right? Or you can go through my school, educate yourself, right? And be financially, we'll inspect your books every once in a while to see that you're being financially disciplined, everything else. And therefore we will give you a higher raise, because it doesn't benefit for me to take away money that I'm going to use not for myself, but for the betterment of the whole tribe, right, and give it to you, and you're just squandering it by having kids you can't afford. I don't know, taking excessive vacations, whatever. I don't know, right? I'm saying there's lots of different variables, but I'm saying, and of course, I'm saying it's an option. So, it's like, who are you there to tell them how to use their money? No, we're not necessarily telling you what to do. We're saying this is have to be self-voluntary, voluntary. So if you don't feel it'll benefit you, that's fine. We're just going to give you the market going rate. So how can we do it? If people are like, well, you can afford more because look, it's like, okay, doesn't matter. I'm not really going to argue. And that's why I have to present it as a tribe and a company. That's why I'm doing it as a company instead of like this kumbaya commune stuff, because it does not work. I have designed to transition into, I guess, the kumbaya, right? No money society, stuff like that. But there has to be a transitional phase, right? So in that transitional phase is like, look, you need to see someone in power emulate power justly. Now, of course, you'll never be able to please everybody. Some people will just hate you. They won't even be able to articulate. They'll just say just because, and that's it, or not say anything. Just like they'll just continue like yeah. It's like, okay, fine, great. I mean, like, but again, no one's forcing you. Again, this is why it's like capitalism, right? 2.0, as I call it. You can quit any time. No one's forcing you to stay here, right? So if you can find an employer that will pay you more than the market rate because you're not willing to be financially disciplined, you're just like, hey, I just want to put my time, put my 9 to 5, give me my money, and that's it. Don't get into my life, and it's okay, that's fine. It doesn't matter, because again, I'm also giving ownership. Well, again, it has to be voluntary, right? Even though in the future I talk about that one of the solutions is that the government has to say, look, there is no longer no C Corp, no S Corp, no nothing. All there is cooperative corporations. You have to give ownership to those that give you their life force energy to manifest the product that people are desiring. Now, of course, people are going to have to switch to also the priorities of what is desirable, especially if Mother Nature really comes to discipline us for being so undisciplined with her, right? That resources are going to be scarce. So hopefully my systems will allow for a real-time understanding of resources, and then a real-time voting, but voting based on many different metrics, right? So, because not every decision is super high, right? Not every decision is super crucial, and not every decision is super crucial. So, depending on your contribution, your IQ, and of course the IQ test is going to be rebranded. It's not going to be like what it is now, but we still have to figure out. We still have to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, this is a standard, right? So that we can measure, right? Because imagine if we still were fighting about what's an inch, what's a centimeter, all this other stuff, we wouldn't be at this place. We need to come to terms and consensus about what this means and agree upon everything. And now look at the benefit of coming agreed upon. Of course, we still have to eliminate the U.S. system. It should really just be the metric system at this point. But hey, trust me, look at the history before that. It was crazier. Okay, so yeah, it was a lot of headache. Just like right now, it's a headache to go exchange, your money currency when you go somewhere else. If we were more evolved and we had one world currency, we wouldn't need to. There would be no exchange, right? There wouldn't be that extra bureaucratic BS because we just don't know how to share yet.
It seems scary or crazy or downright wrong.
We should listen to God even when what's being said seems wrong.
Especially when it seems wrong. If you think you are right about everything, who needs to talk with God?
Oh, I can just hear about people saying, "Oh, well, I thought killing was wrong, but God says, especially, to think opposite. Wrong is right and up is down, and right." It's like, it's like, again, that's why language is the least effective communicator. Highly subject to misinterpretation. But of course, you're always going to have your weirdos, right? You cannot stop that. That's just how life expresses itself, right? In a bell curve, right? You're going to have your exceptional weirdos. They're going to take it to extreme and say, oh, this book allowed me to justify my murdering because God said that I shouldn't think this way, that murder isn't wrong. It's right to me, therefore I'm going to do it. Again, you're always going to have your weird people out there. Just like I understand certain religious people. Like, I understand they themselves... Sorry, you keep using my Bangladesh because he's the latest reference, but yeah, I'm like, okay, I know you're a good person. I see you're following the good parts of the Quran, and I know those that haven't really read it or misrepresenting it, also destroying the image of said religion. But that's why I told him too. I'm like, that's why I don't associate myself with any particular group, right? I just represent me, not Mexicans, not Americans, not men. I only represent me. I don't speak on behalf of anybody else. Now they say, hey, he does speak on my behalf. That's a different story. But I'm saying, overall though, I only represent myself. Period.
Go ahead and act on all that you know. But notice that you've all been doing that since time began. And look at what shape the world is in. Clearly, you've missed something. Obviously, there's something you don't understand. That which you do understand must seem right to you, because right is a term you use to designate something with which you agree. What you've missed will, therefore, appear at first to be wrong. The only way to move forward on this is to ask yourself, what would happen if everything I thought was wrong was actually right? Every great scientist knows about this. When what a scientist does is not working, a scientist sets aside all of the assumptions and starts over.
So there you go. Now, for some of you who's going to think this is going to be some esoteric, it's in there, but it also has a dose of reality, right? So I'm glad God talked about, and used the example of the scientist, right? How in a sense he is looking to get in touch with nature more, because he's setting assumptions aside and is just going to observe natural law.
All great discoveries have been made from a willingness and ability.
Oh yeah, so the fact that he's talking about scientists, right, and all this other stuff. Again, what I'm trying to say here is, yeah, he's incorporating science into there, right? So some of you people who are staunch, in a sense, science has become its own religion. That's what I'm observing. It's become its own religion, and a lot of people are just, for example, okay, I'm gonna give you an example. That says science says the eggs are bad. Don't eat them anymore, right? Someone's gonna read that and just be like, hear the word science, right? Just like certain people who hear, oh, Jesus this, okay, there, yes, right? So these new religious type, right? Because again, it's neither here nor there, right? But there's always going to be extreme people. So there's the extreme people who are like, no, it's just pure science. If I can't touch it, feel it, measure it, whatever, it does not exist, right? It's just theory, right? And then there are those that are be a little more in the center, be like, okay, yeah, there's some certain things that science just can't explain, because that's just not. We're dealing more in the realm of the spirit, right, or of the non-physical world, which I probably should bring it up here, but which is kind of all this anyways, right here, right? This is the realm of the spiritual, right? Antimatter, whatever you want to call it, heaven, nirvana, right? This thing cannot be seen by the physical, right? So this barrier here, right? That's why that great picture of that, I don't know who did it, but that guy piercing the veil of reality, right? That was trying to convey that there's something beyond this physical realm, right? And of course, the machines cannot measure that, and they're not meant to measure that forever. That's where the biological machine of the human spirit can, through meditation, right, disengage and then experience those things that are not of this physical realm.
To not be right. And that's what's needed here. You cannot know God until you stop telling yourself that you already know God. You cannot hear God until you stop thinking that you've already heard God. I cannot tell you my truth until you stop telling me yours.
But my truth about God comes from you.
Who said so?
Others.
What others?
Leaders, ministers, rabbis, priests, books, the Bible, for heaven's sake.
Those are not authoritative sources.
They aren't.
No.
Then what is?
Listen to your feelings. Listen to your highest thoughts. Listen to your experience. Whenever any of these differ from what you've been told by your teachers or read in your books, forget the words. Words are the least reliable purveyor of truth.
Now later on they'll talk about, that feelings and thoughts sometimes are so intermingled that you don't know what is what. You think you're feeling, but you're actually thinking, and vice versa. But as for what he just said about that, right? When what you've been told about something versus your reality, go with the reality. And so one big one with that, and that's why I made the conversation with God extras on relationships and sex, because it's a big one. And then the next thing will be money, because those are big things that we have to overcome, given that we've been bombarded with religious control for so long, right? Just because we think we're more secular society doesn't matter. That's been around for so long that it's deep in the subconscious of many different people, and is displayed in many different ways and in movies. So it still reaffirms that, and you have to be very aware of what happens, right? So, but for me, it's about sex, man. It's about sex. And if you heard my past life readings from the psychics that not came from Edgar Cayce, but extended Edgar Cayce's work, as we'll get into that phenomenon later. Not in this thing, but in another. Again, I'm going to have playlists for different things in this channel. I was saying. Yeah. So I've been a monk, and I've been in the palace, and now I'm finding balance in this life. But I definitely had more time on the monk side. So now it's like, okay, now I understand that, again, there's no wrong or right, but because I went to that extreme of no sex, right, no fap, all that, whatever you want to call it, right, just extreme discipline. Now I'm going to the other opposite, right, where I was in the palace, right, probably had lots of concubines, stuff like that, which I basically already met 32 of them already, right? And so, yeah, I will unabashedly and without any shame, as you guys will, some of you will be like, yeah, you'll be like, yeah, when God makes you feel good about what we call sex, that we have so much baggage. Again, sex and money, we have so much baggage on it, and that's why we can't even have the honest conversation that basically by default, women are well, basically the majority of them are escorts, if you want to get very specific, right? Prostitution is can be argued that it's just when she just provides sex. If she provides companionship and sex, then she's an escort, which is basically kind of what a girlfriend does in the beginning. Now, of course, if she starts cleaning and cooking, okay, maybe now she's like doing wifey duties or whatever, right? And so, yeah, but I would distinguish a girlfriend from a wife. If the woman becomes a wife, goes from girlfriend to wife, regardless of the whole state and the religious stuff. In my world, it's when she gives you her womb, because that is the greatest gift she can give you. Because I'm basing it off relative, as you're going to hear in this book a lot, relative to our current time of how we view things. And so a woman that has kids with a guy and the guy dies, which is a different kind of context, but dies or he leaves her, now she's a single mother, the chances of her actually obtaining the best possible man she can get, if she even ever got one to begin with, right? Or a quality man that's not probably going to abuse her daughter or whatever, because that tends to be the pattern, demonstrably goes down. Even if she's the most, like a solid 9, 10, whatever, right? Even though that's all subjective. But I'm saying, even though she's a solid 9, 10, let's say in the relative world of American standards, right? And she could be a model, whatever, right? Or maybe she is a model, right? It doesn't matter. Coming with that kid, most top tier dudes are not going to want to accept that at all. Even if they have the abundance of money, it's just they want to start their own dynasty, their own legacy, and they don't want somebody else's kid coming into the family, right? He doesn't want a pre-made family, basically. But yeah, anyway, so you're gonna feel you're gonna be like, yeah, why should I feel ashamed of sex? And of course, the world's still not gonna stop shaming you. Oh, no fap. I'm not saying now. Let's get a little more into that. Everything is about cycles and rhythms, right? Music. You gotta make music with your life. And what I observe for a man, and I'm sure this applies to a woman to a certain degree, right? Even though because of our primitive stage of evolution, as you'll see, eventually gotta talk about and articulate very well, women don't desire it, or they hold it back, really, really back, because they're condemned even more to want to express open sexuality. So what was I saying? Yeah. So the world was still. Oh yeah, sorry. So the healthy rate for the neurochemistry, man and woman, you want to have sex every 2 to 3 days. 3 days is better, because again, the more time you give yourself, the more space you give yourself, the next time you reunite, it feels that much better, right? That's why I tell couples, if you reunite often in the beginning, you're gonna get bored of each other, just like eating your favorite food, right? It's your favorite food, but you eat it every day. What's gonna happen? And are you disgusted by it because it's no longer any good? No, it's good, but as good as it is, you had enough. You need to time apart. But of course, it's more complicated in this world because, again, of financial, economic inconveniences. But let's continue to finish off the rest of this. Oh yeah, it's probably the end of it. Oh, hold on. Okay, might be the end. Every once in a while, they put these cheesy things. Okay, that was basically it. All right, so see you on the third video. Peace.